What do you think about I think my next video is going to be about deplatforming, but every week I leave it, a big fucking deplatforming story starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like so every study I've read about this is like people who try to use them as pro deplatforming arguments only read the first half where they say deplatforming works because it damages the advocacy of the person they deplatformed. But then the second half they'll say, which people always leave out, is that um, the consideration then is like, okay, well, if we just deplatforming if everyone X group considers harmful, how big are you willing to let the alternative platforms become before you basically just have like two completely separate echo chambers?
But yeah, that's
Um,
always the scary part is the two separate worlds seems to be happening more and more and more.
and I think as well as like, I think there should be some level of deplatforming, but I don't really, I feel like people don't really know any, don't really give any reason apart from just, well, I think this person's harmful. Like, do you like, because I know you've, a couple of times I've heard you talk about being like free speech absolutist or maybe just like ironically, but do you actually have like a standard in your head for what people should be platformed for or deplatformed?
Um, I think at this stage right now in my life, I think I'm just pretty anti-deplatforming in general. I think that I used to think that deplatforming is important because certain ideas were just too much for people, and like if certain people were like making money off of selling these really dog shit ideas, there's just nothing you can do. But I think I have a different mindset on it now. I feel like for a long time it feels to me like if you think that you're on the truthful side, that you don't have to do any work in like getting your message out, you just assume that people are going to believe it. And now I'm more of like, well, no, like even if you are right on something, and maybe you're fighting conspiracy theorists, like you have to try hard to make your message like presentable, entertaining, palatable to people. And that's just work that I think a lot of people haven't done before and aren't used to doing. So it's something that I think about more now for my work.
Yeah, like I do think it's actually okay to be in favor of a like a marketplace of ideas because like I mean that is a progressive idea originally.
You know,
But have you ever heard of Speaker's Corner in London?
nope.
It's like oh fuck, it's a really like old story, but it was this place that it's in Hyde Park, I think, in London. It used to be a gallows, a very famous populous gallows area, and every time someone got hanged publicly there, they would get to say their last words.
Okay.
And because that was the only opportunity anyone could ever properly give their thoughts about, you know, the state or the monarchy or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like it was like a really popular place for people just to say things that you would never hear anywhere else ever.
Mm-hmm.
So people would gather huge audiences for it, and they actually had to move the gallows into a prison at one point because some of the speeches like incited riots.
Sure.
So now, like since the 1800s, it was always become this place for like progressive or just like people with radical ideas to give their thoughts. So like George Orwell used to go there a lot. Karl Marx used to go there. But the problem is that around the mid 2000s, the place just got completely hijacked by Islamic hate preachers. And
Hate
then the
like wait,
problem
like
was
people that
that
hated Islam or Islamic people
no, no,
that
no,
were
no.
hateful.
Islamic people that were hateful,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
And then the problem is that once they were there, no one else wanted to be there because they were fucking batshit, and it would always like cause, like, you know, there'd always be like physical problems as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there had to be kind of like there had to be some kind of like enforcement that Islamic hate preachers just weren't allowed there. And
Okay.
now the problem is that fucking right wing extremists hijack the place by giving anti-Islamic speeches, and no one wants to go to those either because they always end up in fights.
Mm-hmm.
So it does make me wonder is like that's I can never be sold on like free speech absolutism, you know, because I feel like there are some forms of speech, and I don't even know if it's the speech like the ideas themselves, but just like the way that they're always delivered that just makes like a marketplace of ideas like uninhabitable for other people.
So the way that I view this is that you kind of have to be, I don't want to say free speech absolutist, like you can probably ban people that are just like screaming the n-word somewhere or something, right? Like, so I don't want to say free speech absolutist, but I'm pretty close to it. This is going to sound a little bit arrogant, but this is kind of my view on it. um, I think that if you have a democracy, I think you kind of have to be almost a free speech absolutist because you're entrusting people to make like you're entrusting with them like the most radical power, right? They have the power to choose the actual leaders of the country, which is a huge responsibility. And if you entrusting people with that responsibility, you should probably also entrust them with the ability to hear different arguments to make decisions about said arguments, right? Even knowing that people can make bad decisions and there might be bad actors. So that's one side of things. The second side of things is that I think I'm believing more and more that like individuals are probably really important. That like just, oh my God, he's gonna go all the way around, isn't he? That just one person can shift the needle pretty significantly on certain types of conversations, and that's something that we need to be cognizant of. So like Kanye West himself has probably moved the needle on a lot of stuff. Donald Trump himself for sure moved the needle on a lot of stuff. So like if you're a person that exists in those arenas, then like you probably need to like there's some responsibility that you have to step into there and like shift the needle on some conversation. So to ground this out in a real example, you mentioned that the Islamic hate groups or the anti-Islamic hate groups or whatever, right? Like it might take literally just one person that has to step up and be like, okay, well, I'm going to be the Arab or the Islamic person that goes in and, you know, starts arguing against these people. And then hopefully just that one person is enough to kind of like get at least one or two other people involved. And then stuff will start to change eventually, you know?
You just want like more fucking destinies then. Like,
I mean, it's not destinies. It could be fucking Albert Einstein's or Martin Luther King's or whatever the fuck, right? Like, but like, I do think that there are probably, I think there's a name for this. Like, I think that there are probably pivotal moments in history where like one person probably has a substantial shift on the direction of the conversation. And I think that people need to be cognizant of that and then recognize that like in these spaces that we exist at, that might have to be you, right? Or me or us or anybody. Like
yeah, because I don't think you can actually, I don't think there's any idea that should be deplatformed like just in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some ideas, mostly like far right stuff, that probably would inherently, like there's behaviors around certain ideas that would make them disproportionately more banned. Because like I would imagine like I think the way I like to imagine it is if you've got like the public, like the town square, and there's just some guy in his own corner who wants to debate everyone on Holocaust denial, it should probably be like acceptable in like a free speech society. But I'd imagine most people who are like that are going to be communities that harass the fuck out of any Jew that comes into the space, and then that would be the reason to get rid of them, right? Like not necessarily
maybe,
like a legal level.
Depends
of
on what we
harassment,
mean.
but,
Yeah, well, it depends on what we mean by harassment. Because if it's just like shouting at somebody or like ideas or whatever, right? Then I mean, you kind of have to let it stand, right? And you have to hope that like a strong enough super Jew steps up and wants to argue it out or fight it out or whatever, right? Because these people on the other end, for all their faults or whatever, these people are like superheroes of their ideology, right? Like Fuentes is a type of superhero, right? This guy's been banned from 72 different banks, no fly listed, fucking deplatformed from every, and he's still like trudging forward, right? So if that's going to be the determination on his side, then you're looking for somebody to be similarly determined on the other side, right? As much as it sucks and as much as that might be like a tall calling, but like I mean if that's the type of determination that they're showing, you have to hope that you have people on the other side that are willing to have a similar type of determination to fight back against it. But remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.